something had to be done, and private cemeteries were established. The London Cemetery Company established 7 right the way around London. This was number 3. It quickly became the most prestigious, the most fashionable, the most fancy. As somebody said, this was the best address to be dead. And it was very, very popular. There'd be 30, sometimes more, funerals a day here. They would all follow. Hello, hello, you haven't missed much. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to address them. What would happen is the big gates here, we're just talking about a traditional, a typical funeral. The big gates here would open, in would come, obviously in those days, the early 19th century, a horse-drawn hearse, which would be black. The horses would be black. They would have these black plumes. The carriage driver and his assistant would be in black, and they'd have a top hat that would have black crepe. Apparently it looked absolutely amazing, and there was much pomp and ceremony about these burials. It would come here, waiting for it, sheltering there from the sun, of course, put in to shelter from the sun, which always beats down on us here in England, where the rain never, excuse me, the rain never shines. So anyway, yeah, the mourners would be sheltering there from whatever the weather elements were. The coffin would then be taken across to the chapel. There were 2 chapels. This place has been very, very vandalised. You'll see evidence of that as we go around, and this was one of the worst spots for vandalism. So the chapels don't look anything, I'm sad to say. They were fantastic in 1850. There were 2 chapels, the larger one on that side, for those clever, shrewd, intelligent and wise people who believed in the Church of England. The true religion. If it has England in the title, you can be sure it's right. And anybody else, Catholics, Jews, Muslims, they were called dissenters. They had their own, we'll go to it, and it's quite a different, their own bit of the cemetery, because it wasn't consecrated, and they had their services in here, which is a smaller plainer chapel. Then whatever religion you were or you weren't, out comes the coffin back into the hearse, and the immediate family would then walk behind the hearse, and they could go obviously 2 ways. They could go that way or they could go that way. This is what one of my fellow guides calls the affluent approach, because this was, you paid more to go this way, simply because it's quicker. It just got you up into the cemetery, and if you had the money and you didn't want to walk too far behind the hearse, that's the way you went. That was the way other people went, and Charles Dickens's family, who are all here, they went that way. The Rossettis, rich painters. So it is just a more higgledy-piggledy way of getting up into the centre of the cemetery. The immediate family followed the hearse. Everybody else walked, as I'm afraid I'm going to have to invite you to do, this way.